What is up, friends, and welcome to another episode of From the Mind of Dick. Hope everyone is doing well out there, wherever you may be. Thanks again for listening. Thanks for all the support. I really appreciate it, guys. Love you all to death. So, when I was trying to figure out what I was going to talk about on this episode, I had a few ideas. I thought about possibly talking about current events, which I really want to get into because the Mind of Dick has a lot to say about certain things, like the whole Diddy situation, which I kind of touched on briefly in the Useless Information podcast. But I thought about, like, you guys seem to respond better and seem to enjoy the stories of the old days, like when I was talking about middle school, I was talking about drinking, sobriety, going, talking about all the partying, talking about all the stuff we used to do back in the day. When I talk about stuff like that, it seems like you guys dig that more. I get more people talking to me about it. So I decided that I wanted to tell a bunch of stories about things that happened on Ronar Street. You guys remember we had a couple houses out there in Lake LA. They were on Ronar Street, and we did a lot of partying, and a bunch of crazy shit happened over the years. We had one house that was, I don't know, it was about 5 or 6 months we lived there. We didn't really live there very long. But then we moved to another house that we were there for a few years, and just a lot of crazy adventures at the Ronar house. So I decided that I was going to talk about that. So today's episode is Adventures on Ronar Street. So how did I end up on Ronar Street? Well, I'll tell you. So I was working at N&M Liquor at the time, and I was living at this house that the owners basically they moved into Palmdale. They just let the house go, and they said we could live there for a little while. But the sheriff had showed up and was like, you guys got to move out. You guys got like 5 days to move out. So I was like thinking of going back and living with my dad or my mom or something like that. Like, I didn't know what to do. And when I was working at N&M, this regular customer came in, and I might have mentioned something to him. I don't know how it came up, but he was like, yeah, I got a house down the street if you want to look at it. And I was like, sweet, yeah, let's go. And headed down there, looked at it. It was like, okay, we'll take it. He was like, the rent was cheap. I want to say it was like $750 a month. So it was cheap. So the guys I was living with, I talked to them about it, showed them the house. They were like, yeah, let's do it. So we all moved down to that house. And that was kind of the house before. We had some parties, but once we moved into this house on Ronar, it was like the parties didn't stop. Like, we had our own house, and it was actually, my house that I was renting in my name. And I was like, okay. And I enjoyed having people over all the time. I enjoyed coming home from work or coming home from, seeing my daughter, which at the time it was just June, seeing my daughter, and coming home and then seeing my friends and partying, right? That I felt like that's what I liked doing. And that was the first house where it was like, it wasn't just every once in a while. It turned into like every damn day people were there. And that house was kind of cool. Like, well, I mean, it was kind of ghetto, I'll tell you, but like in the backyard, there was this like covered porch, and there's like a couch. And I don't know if we brought the couch or if the couch was just there, but there was a couch back there. So that's where a lot of people would kick it, just sit on the couch and drink and smoke and all that stuff. And there was this car that was in the backyard. It was just a broken down car sitting there, basically filled up with tumbleweeds, and the whole backyard was shit. We couldn't really use it. But one of the fun things that we decided to do was someone decided to bring over some BB guns or pellet guns or something like that, and we would shoot the car. Well, basically what they were doing was setting up cans and stuff in front of the car and then shooting them, or on the car. But like when you would hit the car, the BBs would ricochet. So they were bouncing all over the place. And actually a couple times, the BBs would bounce back and hit people. And I think one person started bleeding and someone got hit in the forehead. And I was like, you guys are fucking dumb. Give me the gun. And so I'd start shooting too. Bullets ricocheting everywhere. And That was fun. If you decided to get up and go pee on the car, then you were definitely getting a shot in the ass. I'll tell you what. But that was one of the fun things. One time I came home and it was kind of late. I come home and walk to the back, grab a beer, walk to the back porch and see everybody. And yeah, there's glass everywhere. They had broken bottles all over the fucking cement on the back porch. I was like, what the fuck are you guys doing? And they just were laughing and just smashing bottles. Like, I'd finish a beer and just smash it instead of throwing it away. It's like, I was like, what the fuck are we doing here? And then I chugged my beer and smashed it. That's one of the, that's what kind of things we did back then, right? We were just stupid. But, that house was fun. I remember having just a lot of fun parties there. We had a DJ one time. And of course, I had to bust out the dick dance. If you know, you know. And, that house was fun. What ended up happening living at that house, the guy was kind of shady, and I knew he was shady, but the owners of the house were doing the same thing as the other people were doing, and they weren't paying. They were going to not pay on the house, and they just wanted to collect rent. So basically for like 6 months, I was paying them rent, and they weren't paying on the house. So again, sheriff shows up and says, you guys got to move. So again, we were, out in the cold. We didn't know where to go. But I remember seeing a sign down the road, right down the street, that said a house for rent. And I walked down there, looked at the house, and the company that was renting it, the real estate company that was renting the house, I knew them. So I basically contacted them, and the guy was like, yeah, come on over. We'll talk about it. And he basically right there, when I went over to his house, we talked about it, and he was like, yeah. But he wanted to tell me something about the house. And I was like, okay, what's going on? He's like, I haven't been able to rent the house for about, 3, 4 months, 5 months, because that house belonged to the Gentrys. And if you grew up in Lake LA at that time, you knew the story of the Gentrys. Basically, I don't know the whole story. I don't know all the details. I know that their daughter, I believe her name was Lindsay, she passed, and she had some kind of disease, and basically she died of malnutrition. So there was people that defended them, that were friends with them. I don't want to get into that part of it. And I don't remember if she died in the house or if she died in the hospital, but basically they went to prison for, neglecting their daughter who died basically the defense was that she had this disease and she couldn't keep food down, stuff like that. But like I said, I don't know the whole story, but that house belonged to them. So when people found out that's who the house belonged to, they were like, we don't want to rent this house. And the Gentrys wanted to keep their house. They wanted to move back in when they got out of prison. So they needed someone to rent it so that they could keep the house. And basically they were still paying their mortgage while they were in prison, but they wanted to rent the house out. So that's how the story went. And I was like, I don't give a shit. That's a nice house. I'll move into it. So basically we were able to rent that house. And was it haunted? Probably. That's why I feel like she died in the house, because I feel like she was haunting us. I feel like she didn't want us there. There was bad juju in that house. But we moved in anyway. What are you going to do? It was a nice house, and we needed a place to go. So we moved into that house. On the night, I remember on the night where we were supposed to be out, we still hadn't moved the couches. And we were like, fuck, let's just fucking carry him down the road. And so you can imagine we had 5 drunk guys carrying a couch and a love seat down the street at like 2 or 3 in the morning. So you can picture that. That was fun. But yeah, we got moved in. One thing that happened though, like once we moved into that house, a few of my friends had the wonderful idea to trash the other house. And I mean, they completely wrecked it. They put holes in the walls. They spray painted on the walls. They actually took a chair and from the bedroom put it through the wall so the legs were sticking out and in the living room. And I walked in to make sure I got everything, and I was like, holy shit. And then I didn't really say anything. And then the guy comes into the liquor store. He's like, what the fuck did you do to the house? And I was like, I don't know what you're talking about, and I haven't seen it. And he's like, the house is like completely trashed. And I was like, what does it matter? They're not paying on it. It's just going to go to the bank. And he was like, yeah, but that's bullshit, man. Like, why did you do all that? And I was just like, I didn't do it, man. I don't know what you're talking about. And I just played it off like, I don't know what happened. Maybe it was tweakers. It was probably tweakers. So anyway, that's, the kind of friends I had. They were like, fuck these people. They just fucking smashed the fucking, like, I mean, they were breaking windows and just like, it was fucking crazy. But anyway, so we got into the new house, which was actually pretty fucking awesome because it was a really nice house. And then, of course, one of the first things you did, I want to say it was like the second or third day we were there. The guys were skateboarding, doing kick flips and stuff in the kitchen. And my brother, he did a kick flip and then fell, and the skateboard flew out from under him and went right into the wall and put a big gash in the wall. And I was like, what the fuck? We just moved into this place. And yeah, so that's, basically forecasting things to come later, obviously. But we were smoking and drinking. We were smoking in the house, and I'll get to that later, what that caused. But then we moved in the pool table, and my brother had a pool table, so that was cool. We were playing pool in the kitchen and stuff, and then we had a little tiny stick because it was kind of cramped where we had to shoot. So we had a little mini stick. I don't know if you guys remember that, but that was fun playing pool. And we got a foosball table. You guys remember that? And everybody got really good at foosball. Like, who the fuck's good at foosball, right? Who gets good at foosball? But these guys were fucking good at it. I sucked at it for some reason. I was good, but like these guys were so much better. I was like, fuck foosball. I'm not playing that shit no more. My mama said foosball is the devil. But it was fun, like that game never stopped. Like there was always someone playing foosball. But also around that time, Tony Hawk Pro Skater came out. So that's something that we did all the time. Like, that game was so fucking great. The very first Tony Hawk Pro Skater came out, and we would play that shit nonstop. It was always on, and we would play against each other. And I remember people just like starting their run and then saying, fuck this shit, and then stopping it and starting it over. We had like it was just like, I remember people getting so pissed off when they'd fuck up their run, because once you fuck up the first part of your run, your score's fucked up. But we got so fucking good at that game, and it was just nonstop playing Tony Hawk Pro Skater. I freaking love that game. And like the soundtrack, I still hear songs from that were on that soundtrack, and that's all that remind me of, is like sitting there at that house on Ronar just playing Tony Hawk Pro Skater with my friends. And that's the kind of stuff we would do. And, just drinking every night, drinking 20 packs, buying 20-pack bottles of Coors Light. We actually took out the shelves in the fridge. So basically the fridge could hold 4 20 boxes. They were in big cardboard boxes, right? 4 20 packs of Coors Light. And that's what was in the fridge. And then we'd have one shelf that we could put like tall cans on. And that's when me and my brother kind of switched to tall cans, the 24-ounce cans of Coors Light. And we would basically split a 12-pack between us. So they came in like a 12-pack at the store. We were, working at the dairy and stuff. We would basically buy them, air quotes, from the dairy. I mean, I don't want to incriminate ourselves, but it's been so long, it doesn't fucking matter. Like, we would get like 2 20 boxes and a 12-pack of tall cans, and we'd put like $3 to $5 in the register, and then that was what we paid. So, I mean, you could basically call that stealing, but we paid for it. I don't know. That's what we had in the fridge. So we actually took the shelves out. So we basically had condiments in there and then beer. And in the freezer, we had basically nothing but alcohol in there. So that's what the fridge was for. But we were drinking so many bottles, right? We had so much trash. We tried saving the bottles, and seriously, we filled up with bags of bottles and cans. We filled up my brother's truck and my truck and took it to the recycling place, and we got like $60. We were like, fuck that. We're not fucking recycling. Like, literally, we got like no money for 2 truckloads of Coors Light bottles, basically. And it was not even worth saving them. So what we ended up doing was we we had a trash service, right? So I ended up calling Waste Management and getting a fucking dumpster because we had so much trash, and it was all beer. It was all just beer bottles and beer cans, and we had so much that we had to get a dumpster. Like we were filling up a dumpster every single week. That's how much we were drinking. I mean, it was bad. And we would have parties every once in a while. Like most of the time, it was just like maybe 6 to 10 guys just hanging out drinking. But we would have parties every once in a while. And there was one party where I got a couple kegs. Well, I think I got one keg, and then we did get some. We had the usual bottles, but we had a bunch of people come over, and we legit like tapped out that keg within like maybe 2 hours. It was gone. And we were like, shit, we got to make a beer run. And so what I decided was when we were going to have parties, I was going to get 2 kegs. One was going to stay in my room for just the homies, and the other one was going to be for everybody else. And we ran out. We ran out. And I remember one time we ran out of beer in one of the kegs, so they went and did a beer run. They got some other, and then I'm walking around drinking a cup of beer. And they're like, "What? How did you get that? Where did?" One of the guys that wasn't a usual, I think he was from Little Rock or something, and he was like, "Where the fuck did you get? Are you hiding another keg somewhere?" And there's like a few people walking around with cups of beer. We're like, "No, what are we talking about? Like, this was from earlier, And then one of the guys got really fucking pissed off, and that's when he wanted to start fighting people, so we had to kick him out, and which is something that happened a few times. We would have, I remember one party where, I don't know, like we were only supposed to have a few people. This might have been my brother's birthday party, but we were only supposed to have a few people over. And next thing you know, there's like probably 100 people in my house. I mean, there's so many people. And I walk by this one guy and I hear him, he doesn't see me, but I hear him talking like, he was saying like, yeah, we about to fight. And when we had people from Little Rock at our house, like there was always fucking fights. And next thing you know, I hear there's so-and-so's fighting out on the fucking lawn. And so we go out and there's fucking people fighting out there, just, rolling around on the dirt and the fucking, because there's no grass, just rolling around the dirt in the front yard. And then it moved out into the street where there's like, I'm starting to tell people like, okay, the party's over, we got to go. And then all the people that didn't belong there ended up in the street. And then there's fights breaking out in the street and there's people throwing shit. It was basically like a riot. And the cops ended up coming and people scattered, and it was like, holy shit, like this is the kind of stuff that would happen, once every few months. We'd have a big party and people would just end up, we'd have a riot in the street. And I remember one time there was this guy and he was like, I don't know who he was. And he was like on the phone. He's like, yeah, get over here. He's like, bring pacas and come strapped. And one of our friends like, no, we can squash this. This is over. Like, we don't want guns. We don't nothing like that. And it ended up dying down, and we went into the house, and we're just sitting there, and then this car pulls up, and it's just sitting out in front of our house, and we're like, what the fuck is going on? And one of our friends went out there to talk to them, and he said, oh, I think I know them. So he went out and talked to them, and then the car pulled off. He came in. He's like, yeah, they were here. They were about to shoot up the house. Like, they were legit about to fucking drive by our house. They were sitting out front. They were going to get out and start shooting up our house because one of their friends was there earlier and got in a fight. And so they were there about to shoot up the house. But if our friend wasn't there, he knew them. So he was like, nah, dude, these guys are cool. It was just like a misunderstanding. And basically they left. We were like, holy shit, we almost got our house shot up. And there's another time where we had like a DJ in the garage, and everybody was out there dancing, drinking, having fun. I was fucking really drunk. And someone comes and tells me there's these guys outside that are just like snooping around. And I was like, fuck, I got to check this out. So I go outside, and there's these 2 gangsta motherfuckers, like Batos Locos motherfuckers, right? And they're like, hey, let us in. And we want to party with you, And we're like, I was like, fuck, I was like, I don't know you. Like, I can't let you in. Like, I don't let people in that I don't really know. And I felt like it was going to be dangerous if I let them in. And out of nowhere, this guy fucking sucker punches me. And, I took it like a champ. But I'm drunk, and I got pissed. I was like, was like, fuck you, start screaming at these guys. And I'm trying to like go after these guys. And my friends are holding me back because they know that I'm about to get killed. And these guys are like, nobody fucking tells us where we could go. We want to come in. We're going to come in. And I got pulled into the house and I was like, holy shit, fuck those guys and all this stuff. And I really don't know what happened after that. I ended up just kind of like going into the back room and sitting down on the drums and just kind of playing drums for a minute just to kind of calm my nerves. But apparently they talked to them and said, hey, like, you know, we don't know you guys. They calmed the shit. And those guys said, we're going to come back and fucking shoot this shit up. And they never came back, luckily, but we were like, shit. So we shut down the party, shut everything down. And those guys never came back. But that's kind of shit that would happen every once in a while. And at the time, we didn't fucking care. We were fucking crazy. You know, we didn't give a shit. But thinking back, I'm like, holy crap, what was I thinking? Like, that shit's crazy. Like, we would laugh about it later. Like, we would laugh and joke about it and talk about it later. Like it was no big deal. We didn't care. We would come close to dying. Like, someone could have come and shot up our house. And we're so lucky that it never happened. We could have died. And we would laugh about it. We would joke about it. And I look back on times like that and I'm like, this is crazy. Like, it seems like another reality. It seems like it didn't really happen. Or it seems like it was almost like watching a movie to me sometimes. Like, that life I led in my early 20s was like did that actually happen? And I think of it, I'm like, damn, that should actually happen. It was actually real. All the shit that I did. And I think of my life now and I'm like, holy crap, like, all the shit I did when I was younger like that is just, it seems like a movie to me. I don't know how else to describe it. It seems like it's not real. Like, it was a different person. It's just crazy. The house was always moving. Like, that's a good way to describe it. Like, there was always people there. Didn't matter. If I had to get up in the morning to go to work, there'd be people there like sleeping, or there'd be people playing video games. Even if it was like 5 o'clock in the morning, they'd been up all night. It was crazy. It was like all the time. And we had times where, you know, they'd, you know, do ecstasy or something like that. And they'd be listening to music all night and just partying. I'd wake up in the morning, go to work and be like, fuck, you guys are still awake. Yeah, it was just the way it was, man. We didn't really have a lot of food in the house, like, ever. Like I said, the fridge was basically condiments and beer. And in the cupboards, we didn't have plates. We didn't have silverware. We used like plastic forks. We ate a lot of fast food from Lake LA, you know, that kind of stuff. A lot of Big Al's Pizza, because they had like salads that were delicious. Besides the pizza, they had sandwiches that were really good. A lot of Burger Basket, that kind of stuff, right? Y'all remember Burger Basket? So we ate a lot of that stuff. And all we really had in the cupboards was ramen and mac and cheese. And like, we would make combinations with that kind of stuff. Like, we'd get chili, make like chili mac. We would cut up hot dogs and like make that kind of stuff. Like, we'd always, you know, but it was always like someone making mac and cheese or something. We always had a shit ton of it. And what we did was we just all contribute. We'd go buy ramen, mac and cheese, stuff like that. Like, I was always going to Walmart and grabbing a bunch of ramen and some mac and cheese just to bring home. Like, that's really all we had in the cupboard. It's crazy. But you always knew when you came over to our house, everybody that came over would just like, I think we had like one pot. That's it. But everybody would grab the pot and make mac and cheese or make ramen. And you'd always, you know, everybody knew it was just okay to just go do that. And that's really all we had. But the guys used to like to make midnight, 1 o'clock in the morning runs into Palmdale. And it seemed like they were doing that all the time. They wanted to go to like Taco Bell or Jack in the Box or Carl's Jr., like in the middle of the night. Like, I'm saying, because they were open 24 hours. So it's 1 in the morning. I've been drinking all night. I feel like getting some fucking Taco Bell. And it's funny because we used to call, well, Taco Bell was Taco Bell, but we used to call Jack in the Box JB's. So I'm going to go hit up JB's, CJ's, Carl's Jr.'s, you know, Mickey D's. These places were all open 24 hours, so we could just cruise. I never went, to be honest. I never went on one of those late night cruises, but like, we'd be hanging out, you know, everything would be dying down and be like, you know, 1, 2 in the morning, still drinking. I used to drink till, you know, like 3 or 4, something like that. And they'd be like, well, we're going to hit up JB's tonight. Be back in like an hour. You know, because literally it was like 25 minutes into Palmdale, get your food and come right back. You're back in an hour. And they do that all the time. And I think it was more like the weed munchies, because they'd be smoking weed all night and there'd be all we had is ramen. And they're like, fuck, I want some real food and nothing else is open. So it's cruising to Palmdale. It's not too bad. You know, so they used to do that shit all the time, which I thought was crazy. But I remember we had the, so if you guys remember the tables that were outside of the dairy, they were like a table with 2 chairs attached to it, right? There was 2 of them outside the dairy all the time, and they decided to get rid of them, and my brother brought one of them home, so we had it sitting out front. And I just remember sitting there talking and drinking and smoking for hours, just like sitting there with whoever, just sitting there talking. And then the guys would leave and, you know, go get CJs or JBs, and we'd be talking for like an hour, and the next thing you know, they'd pull back up. Be like, wow, fuck, that didn't take long at all. But it would only take about an hour. And I always thought it was like, damn, it's so far. I don't want to go do that. But I always remember, just like, I think back and I remember sitting there just for hours, just sitting out front talking to whoever, like whether it was like my brother or whatever person was there, just hanging out. We just sit on the dairy table, just hanging out, talking right in front of the house. And the guys thought it was funny. Our address at that place was 40266. Okay, 40266 Ronar. That was the address. So I come home one day, and everybody's sitting outside on the dairy table, and there's like 3 or 4 guys sitting out there. We're just talking, and then I get home and I look up, and the address said 42069. So they had changed the address from 40266 to 42069. That's the guys that I hung out with, and to this day I still think that's hilarious. But it was seriously a lot of fun. We had so much fun, and we would party at our house, and then there was also another house that was over on the other side of Lake LA, right? It was Barco's house, and they lived on Jubilee Trail, right? So our house was on Ronar, so we called ourselves the Ronar crew, right? And the guys live over there, Barco, J-Bone, like they had like a bunch of different guys, right, that hung out over there. And we had different people that hung out with us, and we were all like homies at the same time, right? They had a different kind of party crew, I guess you can call it. Like there was a bunch of different people, but we were all together homies. And we would go over there for parties. They would come over to our house for parties and hang out. Like it was all just a thing we'd do. And it's funny because we called ourselves the Ronar crew, and they were on Jubilee Trail, so they called themselves the Jubilee Hustlers. And that was hilarious. I just thought that was fucking so funny. But that's how it was. That's the Jubilee Hustlers on Jubilee Trail. And we were Ronar crew. What's up? What's up? And we were so badass. We started selling, well, let's not call it what it is. Let's call it brownies. Okay. One of the Jubilee Hustlers, he had a shit ton of brownies. Okay. And he was selling those brownies. Okay. But he had too many brownies, and he wanted to sell it, but he wanted to sell it all so he can make more money on these brownies. And he asked us if we would help him. So for a while, probably for about a year, we sold brownies out of our house. And the reason I tell you that is because some of the things we did were kind of funny that I remember, like the codes we would use, or we had a sign that was from the dairy. It was an old sign that was getting thrown away. We took it home, and it had open and closed on it, right? And we had it in our front window. And if we had brownies, we would put the open sign, and people would come over and say, can I get a dime bag? Some brownies, right? And people would call And they would, and the code they would use would be, hey, we're going to play pool. Okay, what time? Oh, around 10. Okay, that meant a dime bag of brownies, right? $10 worth of brownies. And, oh, hey, what time are we playing pool? Oh, we're playing pool about, what time are you going to come over? About 5 o'clock. There you go. There's the code. So that's the stuff we would do. And people would come over and buy brownies. And, the guys that I lived with ate a lot of brownies. Sometimes they actually were eating brownies. I'm using code for something else, but they actually would eat brownies that had brownies in them, But yeah, we used to actually do that. I really didn't do much. I would just kind of like I didn't have any. My brother did, and some other people in the house did, and they helped out. And the Jubilee Hustlers would hook us up with like a pound of brownies, and we would just help them sell the brownies. So anyway, that's another thing I remember about that house, is just the time where we sold brownies. And the sign is what got me, is like, yep, we're open for business. And the thing is, I think the cops knew what we were doing and they just didn't care, because they would come by every once in a while. Like we'd be, partying. The cops would come sit outside the house and we'd go outside and talk to them. And, they were just cool. They would come and watch us. They had to come by a few times because of like the previous things I'd mentioned. And they would come by and just kind of hang out, and I'd go out and talk to them. They'd say, yeah, we're just keeping an eye on your house, making sure you guys are cool. Like they were so cool. Like we were doing we had a lot of illegal activity going on in our house, but I think because we really weren't, hurting anybody. I don't know why they let us get away with stuff. I mean, they really just let us get away with whatever we wanted. I don't know if it's because of all, getting all the free coffee. I have no idea, but they were actually, cops were really cool with us at that house. Which reminds me of something I wanted to talk about. My brother's birthday party. I don't remember. I think he was 22. I honestly don't remember how old he was, but we had like this huge birthday party for my brother at that house. And a lot of people showed up that weren't supposed to. We had like 2 kegs, a bunch of beer, a lot of alcohol, a lot of brownies. And so a lot of people showed up, and we ended up having this crazy, again, like riot in the street, fights breaking out, just all sorts of shit happening, right? And by that time my son was born. He was just a baby. He was probably a few months old. So November, yeah. So my son was born in August, and so my brother's birthday in November. That's the party we had, and so he was a baby. He was only a few months old. And after the riots and after everything died down, everybody was gone. Tons of craziness for like hours. Finally, it was all done. I said, okay, well, my son was over with my dad and my stepmom, and I was like, okay, I'm going to go pick him up and then come back and then, be fine. And then, so I take off to go get my son, and I'm gone for maybe 30 minutes. I come back and there's 2 cop cars sitting out in front of the house. And so I, park my truck, grab my son, and then I go out to talk to the cop car, and they're not sitting on the other side of the street like they used to. They're actually sitting like right in front of our house. And I look at the front door, and there's this big dude standing there that I don't recognize. And I'm like, what the hell? And so I talk to the cops, and I'm like, what's going on? Like, who's that guy? And the cops start laughing, right? It's one of the cops we knew. And he just starts laughing. He's like, well, we stopped by because, we were actually called because there was some stuff going on. But when we got here, this car pulled up, and you'll see, go on inside. And I was like, are you serious? Like, what's going on? He's like, yeah, just go inside, you'll see. And he's like, everything's good though now, right? I was like, yeah, everything's fine. Everything's died down. Sorry about that. And he's like, yeah, just go inside and see. And I kind of touched on this when I was talking to Johnny on the podcast, but I opened the door, and I have my son in the car seat. I open the door, and my brother's sitting there getting a lap dance, and I see boobies. And my brother's just sitting there, puts his thumbs up. And I'm like, what the hell? I didn't even know this was going on. I didn't know this was going to happen. And there's a topless girl giving my brother a lap dance. The guy outside was the bouncer. And I had no clue this was happening. But while I was gone, the stripper showed up that they ordered for my brother for his birthday. And my baby mom and my son's mom and June's mom was sitting there watching, laughing, and having a great time. And I'm like, what the hell are you doing? And because she was totally like against that kind of stuff, but she was just laughing. She gave me the look. Her eyes got really wide, and I was like, what is going on? But like me and Johnny were laughing about like this stripper was wearing like kids' underoos or something. They were like, she wasn't even wearing like any kind of women's underwear at all, and she wasn't that good looking. But my brother was having a great time, and all the guys got lap dances and stuff and had a great time. I basically got my son and went into the bedroom, and then his mom followed me, and like we went to bed. But can you imagine? I walk in, and after all this crazy rioting and all this shit, like feeling like I had to fight people for like hours trying to get these people that didn't belong in my house gone. And then I walk in and there's a stripper, and my brother's just like, yeah, dude. I'm like, holy shit, dude. What an ending to a night. What an ending to a birthday for my brother. It ended up being really fucking cool for him. Really like good memories, because like my eyes were like, what the hell? Not expecting that. Nobody told me that was going to happen. Not one person told me that they ordered a stripper for my brother, which is crazy. But anyway, that's, another adventure on Ronar Street. But there was so many different things. I remember we had been there for a couple of years. And like I was saying earlier, we basically smoked all day long in that house. And the house was really, you could smell it. And when we realized we were going to be there for like another year, I want to say we'd been there for like 2 years, and then we were going to stay another year. Me and my brother, by that time, I think, by that time, I had left like the dairy, the liquor store. I had left all that, and I was painting for a while, like painting houses. And so me and my brother were doing that, and we kind of knew how to do it. So then we were like, hey, we got this great idea. Like, hey, let's paint the inside of the house. We didn't have permission, but we were like, if you really looked at like, it had like popcorn ceilings, and they were yellow. The walls were yellow from all the smoking. They were white when we moved in, and they were fucking brownish yellow. Like, it was nasty. And so we were like, hey, this is pretty nasty. Let's like wash the walls, and let's paint the house. We'll paint it a different color. We'll paint just the inside, like where the outside would look fine. We just wanted to paint the inside. And so we decided to have a painting party. But the reason I bring this up is because when you're smoking in a house, like when you got 10 dudes smoking in a house and basically all day long, and it never stops, and it gets nasty. So we decided we were going to get soap and water and wash the walls before we painted, because we really didn't want to paint over it. You can't really do that. So we washed the walls with rags, and the stink and the grossness of that water, it made us all want to fucking puke, because it was so disgusting. And we were just cleaning the walls, like every wall in the living room, and it was so nasty. And I couldn't believe, like to this day, we were done. We painted the house and then kept smoking in there, and it was ridiculous. But to this day, I don't know why people smoke inside their house. And yeah, it's your house, do what you want. But I understand why like apartment buildings don't let you, like when you're renting an apartment, they don't let you smoke, because that's what made me realize why, because that was the most disgusting nastiness. And I almost didn't want to do it anymore. Was like, no, hell no. But we did it. We painted the house. I feel like after we painted the house, I feel like the ghost of Lindsay got upset, because there's a lot of different things that happen. Like one time, we had the band equipment set up in the back room, and there was this built-on back room. We had the band set up back there with the amps, and everything was set up in the back room. That's where we would practice. We had this little like curtain set up so we could kind of have privacy, and that's where we would practice, a couple days a week. And the hot tub was right there next to it, right? And we used to use the hot tub all the time. And, it was convenient because, after band practice, we would all get naked and jump in the hot tub. It was a bonding experience for the band. Just kidding. That never happened. Or did it? But we would practice back there. And then one day the hot tub starts smoking, and it's on fire. And we were just freaking out, right? And we didn't know what to do. We had to try to unplug it or something. We didn't really know what to do. And I don't even remember what we ended up doing to stop it, but it was seriously smoking and on fire while we were jamming. We were like, fuck, this is crazy. We chalked that up to the ghost, not liking our music and not liking the fact that we had painted. We used to have cabinets slam, in the bathroom, or the toilet seat would slam shut. Because, we were a bunch of guys, so we never put the toilet seat down. Toilet seat would slam. And we were like, what the fuck? I would hear shit in my room, and I would go in my room, and I was like, what the there's nothing there. One night, I was passed out. I was asleep, and I literally felt like a presence in the room. And I woke up, and I was like, what? There's something going on. I feel something. And it was pitch black. I couldn't see anything, but I felt a presence. And then I felt the blanket flip up, and I was like, what the fuck is that? So I jump up out of bed and flip on the light, and I look at the corner, and the blanket had flipped up. And I don't know how that happened. It was crazy. And I felt like a lot of this started after we painted. So I think that whatever ghost was in the house didn't like us painting the house and changing what, if it was her parents, I don't know, but changing what I don't know, because it seemed to start right after we painted. It seemed like the juju changed, all the vibes in the house got weird. And towards the end of me living there, I want to say the last 6 months, one of our roommates decided to move out, the guy that moved in with us from the beginning. He just was done. He decided he wanted to go. He was done with all the partying, I think, and he was complaining a lot about we were up all night, and he was like, I got to get up early to go to work. And he was smart. He was starting to be an adult, and he was right. And none of us were ready to do that yet. And he was just like, dude, I got to get up early, and you guys want to party all night long still, and we just got to end this. This is done. It's over. And then he ended up moving out, and we had the empty room, but it was just me and my brother for a while. And then one of our other friends came over, and he was like, he decided to move in, and he said he's going to stay for just a little bit. And he moved in for a couple months. And then he had this guy that came over, and he's like, oh, this is my friend, and he just needs a place to stay for a little bit, so he's going to stay with me. And then my friend moved out and left the guy there. And the guy stayed for 2-3 months, and he wasn't giving me any money. He was giving me a little bit, but not enough. And he wasn't contributing. He was making a mess and not cleaning it up. And I was like, fuck. I mean, why are you here? I don't even know you, and you're a friend of a friend, and you're staying in my house, and I don't like you. And then he brought a girl over, and the girl was living there now, and the girl was even more of a piece of shit than this guy was. And I'm like, I don't even fucking know this guy. Why is this guy in my house? And I didn't want to bring my kids over there because he was a fucking piece of shit. And finally got him to move out. And then our old roommate that was there before decided to move back in. So he moved back in. And then I was just all this weird shit was going on with things changing. Because then he moved in, and then he moved out again. And I don't know. Finally, I was done. I was I got 2 kids. I got to do something with my life. I don't even remember. I think I was still painting, or I think that I got laid off from that, and I was delivering pizzas at fucking Big Al's. Shit was just fucked up. And I decided I wanted to go to school. I wanted to do something with my life. I wanted to get into computers. And so I ended up moving out and moving back into my dad's house. And it was really, really tough to do. It was rough. And then I want to say my brother had to move out as well. And I think he moved back in with my mom. And so we had that house for 4 years. We were on our own. And then we both had to move out of the house on Ronar. And I think the Gentrys were coming back too. So I think that was the reason my brother had to move out, was because I think the Gentrys got out of jail. So, and my brother was, had to move out too. But that was basically, there's probably a lot more stories from the Ronar house. If you think of any that I missed, just let me know. But maybe I'll make a part 2. But as for this episode, that is going to be all. I hope you enjoyed my stories of my past life.